Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Greubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists. It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to this episode of the Canine Detection Collaborative. I am here with my stupendous co-hosts, Crystal Wing.
Hello, friends.
And the amazing Stacy Barnett.
Hello.
And we are back in our respective homes in different parts of the country, trying to get back to our normal lives. And one of the things that we have on our Facebook page, if you go to the Collaborative's Facebook page, pinned at the top, is a form you can fill out. Don't post in the comments of that thread. Go to the form, post in the form, and say, hey, we want to hear about this. And so I was digging through there today, going, okay, what have we not covered that somebody wants to hear something more about? And there are a whole bunch of good ideas. So we now have podcast ideas for like the next 15 to 25 episodes at least, but which is amazingly awesome. So ones that kind of jumped out at me because I was doing some training and we did the intentional handling class and had somebody write in from Australia. You know who you are. Thank you for listening. That actually quoted our words back at us, which is always fantastic and very flattering. So thank you.
And then I always have to read them like, do I still agree with myself?
Yeah, I know, right?
I know. I think it was fine. It was totally fine on this one, but I'm always like,
yeah. So this one, we did an episode. It's episode 14 on the importance of setting hides. And if you guys have been listening at all or come to any of my classes or even Stacy's classes, we talk about knowing how to set hides and the importance of setting hides correctly. And that we really don't want to be involved in the search, locate, report chain. But when we really want the dog to figure it out independently. And so the more we're using body pressure or the more that we're presenting or the more that we're doing verbal diarrhea and encouragement, right? We add ourselves into the chain. And Stacy pipes in and says, it's a cue. But this person says, I'm noticing that more people are stepping in and doing that sort of thing. So their question is, why are competitors and why do people do this? And where is it coming from? And do we do it professionally? And the answer is yes. I do it professionally quite a bit, especially when I'm doing bomb dog stuff. I was just doing the vendor section of a concert and we were doing explosives, firearms detection, and I presented different locations practically on every single car. Not that Dash wasn't searching appropriately because most of the time he was, but I'm also like, hey, stick your nose here because I know that this is where Odor is going to present. Stick your nose behind this truck seat, right? So yes, I'm putting that in there. If I'm doing fine detailed searching for narcotics or even in the cadaver dog work, yes. We also will handle when I'm standing at the top of a ravine and I need you to go all the way down the ravine because I do not want to walk down there.
Preach on that one.
Yeah.
You have the little shape that you can get down inside of those holes and I can't. Just go. Don't make me go.
You go do the thing. You go run up on the rubble pile. Do the thing, right?
Yeah.
With four-wheel drive, not me on my bipedal. No. So the interesting thing about this is we have to, in my opinion, training's absolutely, like Melinda said, thinking on your toes. And you have to make sure that as you're setting up your training, not testing or deploying or trialing, you're setting up your training, that you are setting up a problem. And sometimes the rest of the chain might get messy. And Stacy and I did the week-long class, which Crystal's going to join us next year, which we're super duper excited about.
Woohoo!
About the intentional handling and hide setting class, which is literally a week devoted to this particular topic. And so I thought it would be fun for us to really kind of talk about, this comes down to when you set up stuff and you know your dog's probably going to struggle and they're on the little struggle bus, stepping in and helping them. How, when, why, what, where do we do that? And then you have to get out of the habit of doing it when you deploy or you trial. So
that's why in the teaching phase, it's so great to be able to break down your behaviors into, like you say, a chain. So you have these different pieces and parts. So when you do see one piece break down, you can take that one piece out and then work on that aside and get that back to where you need it to be to put it back into your chain. And I mean, that's with all aspects. That's obedience, that's odor, that's across the board. So that's always the goal we have.
Saying that you want to have a plan when you're training.
Always.
Just a little plan. Just a little plan.
And then sometimes the plan is testing, but I'm always with the thought, like, for instance, yesterday, I met up with a helper doing bite work stuff, and I did a functional assessment. I wanted to see, because I'm 75 days out from going for our IGP-1. And so I'm like, should we do it? And it was a train wreck. But he came in dirty on the bark for the bite. And then when we went to do the escape bite, he broke and went to the sleeve. And I'm like, okay. In that moment, I said, there's no more functional assessment. We're going right into training. And I was able to take each of the pieces, and we had a really nice, successful rest of the session.
Nice.
But I knew immediately to stop what I was doing. And because I've trained enough, I know what pieces to take out and what pieces were kind of broken in the moment. And it's the same with odor work, same idea.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where I've been doing a lot of bird dog training for the last couple weeks and realized that actually yesterday and today I had an aha moment where I was like, oh my gosh, the last 6 months of foundational training that I've been doing on whistle sits and casting and lining and sitting still until you released are just about to pay huge dividends for allowing me to move on to other stuff. But unless I had those core things done, I'd be on the struggle bus. I couldn't do some of the stuff that I couldn't do some of the stuff I did in training today, which was really freaking fantastic. But when we think about the detection work, when you start putting together that search, locate, report concept, and I think everybody will agree back chaining is always best. Start with the report part, whether it's a nose to odor really fast or it's an actual trained final response. It was sometime this summer, I was having a conversation with somebody in my philosophy, right? Because everybody gets to have philosophies, is you really spend a lot of time on the report behavior. You can segment out your search behavior, whether it's with hunt for a toy or whatever. You put those two together to begin with for your young dogs. And then for the remainder of your dog's life, you are working on the locate portion.
Yeah. Yep. That's actually the exact same way that I teach, other than the fact that I don't focus as much on the behavior part of the report for the nosework folks. But if I look back at, I look at how I teach NW1, which I'm teaching this term right now, we actually spend a lot of time with just the switch box and the behavior of the switch box, because if the dog doesn't know what to do when they get to the hide,
right,
they're going to lose their confidence anyway. So, we work on, markers for the handlers, and I teach them how to get duration at the switch box initially. So even if we don't maintain that amount of duration, the dog understands what to do at the hide. And then we start to build in some of the searching with that by just, they start literally, we move into searching for the switch box, and then we start to move into searching for the hide itself. But it's basically the same thing. And then the entirety of the dog's career, you are working
on locate, which the question is really, do you show them where it is? Never.
No.
So that's where I want to add in too, going on what Stacy just said, they need to understand what to do when you do step in.
Right.
And that was something that I really liked. I took that Scent for Six class through the School of Canine Science. And one of the lessons was how to use your presence to kind of help them understand. So we did tiny little Kong pieces. And so we would do like 5 Kong pieces in the wall, knowing that they're not going to find all 5. And he would say, always do it in like a pattern of a letter. So like imagine the letter M. So you've got one hide, low, bottom left, and then it goes up at a triangle, down, up, down. Can you kind of picture that?
Mm-hmm.
So have that in your mind. And then you go up to the wall and you start with your presentation kind of low to the left, further away from that first one. And then you guide up. And then when you guide down, you are actually on that third one, they are finding it where your hand was. And so it's showing that it can be successful to actually use you to go through and show the pattern. So it's not that you're never showing them where it is, but in the teaching phase, I really liked that. And that was such a great lesson because it was like the dog knew after that, okay, it's worth going in the teaching phase to be able to say, oh, yeah, mom can actually bring me to a successful place.
Right.
So when you say no, I agree. But in the teaching phase, I really liked how we did that to show that you can be successful. And then we didn't have to show them the exact spot all the time after that, but it was just to say, hey, here is where you should go and look.
Yeah, I do it very differently, but
it's one of those things where you might have a dog, and a lot of this is so dog dependent, right?
Yeah.
And how your foundations are started and all of those things, the way my foundations are started, they start with a bigger piece on the wall. So they have a visual reference to begin with, and then I make it smaller. So it's a different type of luring.
Yeah, which is kind of what I do with the switch box.
We had the same. Yeah.
It's there like out in plain sight, and they understand you release them to it and then start to hide it.
Right. And then I use the boxes, the presentation. So when we start doing, Stacy, it's like the containers.
Yeah.
Kind of is the more the ORT type of thing. No, check here, check here, check here. That actually is where I teach the hand, my hand means something.
And we did it from the wall to the vehicle.
Right. And so there's 500 different ways to do it. And some of it depends on the dogs. Some of it depends on your mechanical skills.
And some of it just depend on the odor availability and odor threshold, right?
Correct.
Because when you're dealing with essential oil, it's going to hit them in the face. Like you don't need to show them where to sniff because honestly, they're going to smell it before you get anywhere near it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a different application.
Yeah, for sure. Because these are little pieces of Kong that are smaller than your pinky nail.
It's so different because when you're dealing with like huge odor,
right?
Because you can't make essential oil small. You just doesn't come,
As we talk about, do you show them where it is? And the answer should be, if you have to show them where it is, they get like once or maybe twice.
Yeah, the way we did it was we just created a pattern. And then it was, okay, now we understand that what you're doing matters. And we didn't do it for more than just a few reps, but Correct. It was just enough to go, okay, yeah, so I should do what mom's doing. And that could lead me to something wonderful. And then it's just like any variable reinforcement, it would be way, way, way further in between. But as you do it very fast, you don't keep doing it over and over because that's not going to do you any good. Right. And it's not like you go directly to it and point at it in the very beginning. So it might be that you point at 3 places before you get to it. Now it's 5, now it's 15.
Right.
Now it's just, I'm always just getting on the wall close.
That's really important. So, the whole concept of, do you show them where it is? And what Crystal's talking about is going up and presenting in the area. And I agree with that absolutely, because if I have a dog that hasn't learned how to check high, I may present high twice, and it might be a foot away because I've ran a dog that understands how to solve the problem first. So I can find out where Odor's presenting. I can present where Odor is presenting, but not actually where Odor is. And then they have to solve the rest of the problem.
I'm thinking of a good example of that when we were up there at the hospital, and there was a difficult one that we had set.
Crystal was up here and we set up narcotics hides and an abandoned hospital for a bunch of law enforcement and narcotics dogs. So anyway.
And they set me free. So they just said, hey, go hide the things. I'm like, okay, which ones drop? Which ones rise? Which ones are big? They're like, okay. I'm like, all right, here we go. There was one that I actually set for myself. And I told them this. I said, the rest of these are all exactly what you asked for. This one's for me. And I set it in this doorway that I knew that they'd be opening. So I knew that it would be kind of burping as it went. And it was heroin and it was on the door ledge up at the top. And so it was moving. And it was also in like a weird space. I just was really curious what Odor was going to do there. And it was interesting to see, and they didn't know where it was. So the dogs would start kind of swirling around and they would pop up a little bit. And what I saw was with the different handlers, some would start noticing that the dog wasn't getting access to it lower. And so they did start kind of presenting higher to try to see, is it up here? And that's when the dog started to access it and started to kind of go, okay, I got this figured out. But without the handler having the understanding of what they were seeing with what the dog was doing, if they didn't present up, the dog wasn't going to find it. It was such a crazy odor problem. And so that's where you really have to know your stuff. And even though they didn't know where it was, just by watching the dog's body language, it got the dog closer to be able to find the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that relies a lot on handler experience. I think the bigger issue I see in general with sport is not with the experienced handlers. It's with the inexperienced handlers. And I see a lot of this where the dog almost trains the handler to do all the work. And this is where, when we talk about not showing the dog where it is, it's where the dog kind of gets kind of in the area and goes, this is hard, and looks at the handler. And then the handler starts to step toward the hide. And the dog gets in like really amazing at reading the handler rather than looking for the hide. And I see this as a huge issue in when people start to overhandle and start to do a little bit too much. And this is why when we're talking about, don't show them the hide, it's really because in a lot of cases, you get the dog using the handler as a crutch,
right?
Which rather than working, and a lot of this has to do with maybe, the hides were too hard to begin with, or the handler loses a little bit of patience and letting the dog kind of work it out.
Yes, that.
Yeah, that.
Can you say that like 5 more times? That's so much of it. Let the dog work. Don't be so impatient. Just let the dog work and enjoy watching them. Listen to their nose, watch their body language. I mean, if you're getting impatient that they're not finding it fast enough, the more you let them find it, the faster they will get at it.
Right.
Yeah. And increase that reinforcement, because that's a huge piece of it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it to be like, well, you find it. I don't care.
Well, and I think it's one of those things that we've started. I know Crystal and I heard this when Lisa Higgins was up here at a seminar. She said, okay, guess what? At this particular seminar today, we are working on dog time. And what that means is that some days or some sessions, you and your dog may solve this problem in 30 seconds. The next person might take 5 minutes. We're going to work on dog time today. And we've incorporated that nomenclature into distraction camp and the intentional handling class, just so people, one, it allows people the opportunity to understand that, what, this might take a while.
Yeah.
And it's okay because we're letting dogs work because the dogs need to work. And we're also coaching the handlers. And sometimes the handlers need coaching in such a way that helps their dog work. And if you have a really experienced dog that comes in and solves it in 30 seconds, yay you. Guess what? The next one we set up for you is going to be harder. So do you put them away? Do you move it? And some of it all depends.
Yeah. And I love how with different level dogs, we can use the same problem. And knowing what the criteria is that they want to work on, it depends on where we set the dogs up to start and how to work it. And so I think that's something that some people lack, is being able to understand that the same odor problem can be used for variable levels of dogs and handler teams.
Yeah. I think some of like what we're talking about here, there's 2 different buckets of when we talk about, there's the presentation bucket, and then there's the let me do your work for you bucket.
Yes.
Those are 2 very different buckets. The one bucket which is the presentation. Yeah, presentations are sometimes they're necessary. Sometimes they're helpful. Sometimes they get your dog into the right position. Sometimes it is just get in that corner because you haven't even worked that area. Or is the verbal that I give Brava, search low, when I can see that she's working diffuse odor and is getting frustrated because all the odor is going up and she's not dropping her nose. That's all getting your dog's nose into the right spot to help them be successful, which is very different from my dog's not finding it. Here's the hide. Even, we see this a lot at the lower levels. NW1, I think, if they get it wrong, they'll tell you, well, the hide's on the chair. You can go feed your dog at the chair. And students ask me, should I do that? And I'm like, no. They're like, what? I said, that is for you to feel good. That does absolutely nothing for the dog other than for them. They'll start to realize, oh, if I don't find it, I still get my cookie at, wherever the hide is. It just makes the handler feel good.
Right. And keep in mind, presenting and having your dog do the fine, whether you've spoon fed it to them or not, is about making you feel good. What lesson have you taught your dog?
Right.
And so that starts feeding into, well, how do I handle this? Yeah. And there have been times I was talking to somebody and we literally came down to they ran like 3 dogs on it. And then the handler literally pointed, check here. And it was a buried problem.
Oh,
right. None of the dogs, experienced dogs, were getting it.
Yeah.
So it literally was like, it became an odor presentation issue, which really meant pull the hide.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It was a bad set. Okay. We'll just reset it. And yes, sometimes when you're doing cadaver dog work and you wanted something to sit for 24 hours and it's a bad hide, you're like, ugh. But
it happens all the time in nose work too. It's like, well, the odor's going straight up.
Right.
And the dog just walked right underneath it. And the dog's only going to get it if they pop up and get lucky.
Right.
There's a lot of situations like that. And it's one of these things where, and I've had situations in trials where I can tell based on my dog's odor where the hide is. And I'm like, dude, sniff the chair, right? Because I can tell you've been in odor at that point, and that point. And it's triangulating and pointing at this chair based on the odor presentation that's been given to me. Yeah, I'm going to present the chair.
Okay.
And you know what? The dog alerts and I'm correct. And I get a yes.
Back when GPSs first came out, right? I'm doing search and rescue work. This is back when you don't get the cool color interface and there was no touch screens. You had all those little
I'm
buttons.
sitting here going, how did you even do? I don't know.
I still have I have a Garmin 60 CSX still in my cabinet.
Upload in a Calcopo and all that.
Thank you very much.
The animations. Oh my gosh, you couldn't even do animation. Although I've only done one. Yeah.
But so one of the very, very first in really interesting things that I would use my GPS for, besides marking where my subjects were when I was doing evaluations, was in training. Every time I saw my dog do a head pop, mark enter, which puts a waypoint into my antiquated GPS at this point, right? And really what you would do, or when you saw your dog do the head hook, mark enter. And if you would do it correctly, and depending on how everything worked, you could actually have waypoints on either side of your scent plume. And then the dog would find, oh, here's your subject. You still use it a lot on water for doing that.
Oh, well, we're still using that in air scent.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it's a really nice way you can keep track of all of that stuff in your room or in whatever you're searching and help try and solve the problem for the dog during a trial.
Yes. Like I said, I do.
Right.
And it's picked up hides because you know what? TikTok, this is a time.
Right.
Sure.
In training.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I heard that in both sides of my earphones there. I was stereo.
In training, you don't point it out because you really want to teach the dog how to solve that. And that's actually like our entire intentional handling class was step to the right, 2 steps, step back a step to the left, turn your shoulders this way. And oh my God, I never got so.
You put the left foot out.
Yeah, it was this whole thing. And it was so really funny because I'm standing there and I find myself, I'm like, I have to orient myself to the way that the student is handling so I can get the left and right correct.
Oh.
Because there's a step to the right. No, your other right.
Yeah.
Whether it's my fault or their fault, it's like, no, that's not what I meant, but do what I meant, not what I said. And that is the whole time. And really what you're trying to do when you're doing that intentional handling piece in training is you're trying to use body pressure as little as possible, but as much as needed on behalf of the dog to help the dog solve the problem.
Absolutely.
Hoping that the next time they see a similar type of problem, you don't have to step in at all.
Yeah. We covered a lot of like with odor pools, right?
We did.
I mean, we have a lot of odor pools where we were using body pressure from the handler to help the dog out of the odor pool. Because how many times do you see a dog in an odor pool and they get frustrated and then the handlers they're like, oh my gosh, there's odor. Let me get in closer.
Right.
Let me square the dog. The dog's in odor. And the dog's like, there's nothing here. I want to leave. And the handler's like, but I'm so interested in this area.
But you have to solve it because it's got to be here. Not realizing that it might be 6 feet away.
Yeah. Or more.
Or more. Yes.
We did a lot of teaching the handlers how to move the dogs out of the odor pool so that they didn't kind of get frustrated, because that really can create a loss of confidence in the dog, or it can create false alerts, fringe alerts.
Yeah.
Actually, it would be fringe alerts.
Well, and Nico Fred gets frustrated. He's like, what do you mean? And I'll get some stuff out of him and then he gets perp walked back to the car. But it's the crowding your dog in an odor pool, stepping in and going full frontal on where you think the hide is, does not allow your dog to leave the area.
Mm-mm.
And it was so amazing to watch some of these handlers. We were like, just take a step back with your right foot. And they take a step back with that right foot.
Oh, thank goodness. And they leave.
And they leave and they walk like how many ever feet. And the handler's like, where are you going? And the dog's like, got it.
Yeah. The dog's like, thank you for letting me leave. Oh,
right.
My goodness.
I look at some of this stuff. Is there a hard and fast rule on when you do stuff like this? And the answer is not really. This is where the craft of handling a dog comes in, that you have to be able to to be perfectly honest, I did a lot of it figuring it out myself.
Yep.
And figuring out what works. And now I was just having a conversation with some other people. I've been having a lot of conversations and talking about the whole concept of a trainer. And they're like, I don't want to mess up my dog. I don't want to mess up my dog. And the answer is, you're going to mess up your dog. Welcome to being a trainer. It's somewhere along the way, you're going to look at something. You're like, wow, I really messed that one up.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't find it out until later.
Right. And you go, oh yeah, I remember when that started. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing about being a trainer though, is to look at that and go, okay, I now know where that started.
Mm-hmm.
I can go back to that point because my dog has a training plan or a training progression. Mm-hmm. And now I modify either my body language or my hide setting, or I need to go work on a foundational behavior. And mm-hmm. now I will go fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what dog training is. And so being a trainer is being able to recognize after that first, second, or third repetition, you're like, whoa, that's a danger minefield that way. We won't go that way.
Yeah. And you know what's so interesting is that you try to tell yourself that that's not going to happen on the next dog.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, that specific thing didn't happen, but there was a permutation.
Yeah. Now there's a different thing.
Blew up on the next dog.
Yeah.
Every dog is so different too.
Yes.
All right.
I think about poor Quinn. I mean, with him, I had a yes. It was either a click or I would say mark. And
mm-hmm.
that is what he knew. If he did something right, that's what he heard. And now I'm like, I have all these different words that mean different things that help, with clarity and takes conflict out of, our sessions. And I think, wow, I I so wish I could do it over with Quinn again, just knowing how amazing he was and how much better of a trainer I am now. But I have such different problems now and way more challenging dogs. Like Checkmate is so much more challenging than Quinn was. And if I didn't have the lessons that Quinn taught me and now the better trainer that I am, there's no way that I'd be near as far as I am with Checkmate. And then Radish is like a gift. She is just so biddable and so lovely. And she was at the patio today. We had Mexican and we went to a little ice cream shop, and it's so nice to have a patio dog. But every dog is so different. Like I wouldn't have done that with Quinn. He would have been like complete, you have to be down and you have a job.
Yeah.
No.
It wouldn't be everybody coming up, can I pet your Radish?
I mean, Radish, like she challenged you in other ways. It's like every dog like brings something like, and they give you some different challenge. Like I look at Prize and I'm like, yeah, you're living up to your name. Like I'm like, I named you good, but at the same time, it's not like it's like you're coasting. It's like, yeah, she's taught me some other things, and they're all, even when you look at the dog, you're like, wow, this was a total gift. There's so much there that you just had to like bust your butt also.
Yeah.
No dog, I don't think any dog is truly easy. I really don't believe. I think they have easy parts to them.
Yes.
But even everyone's like, oh, I want that high drive dog that looks, and like, yeah, that's a double-edged sword right there.
I just remember telling people that Nico prepared me for Sheba. Right.
And they look at you like,
they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, Sheba, she's now doing bomb dog work somewhere in South Carolina. And she was high arousal, high drive British Labrador. And if I had not had Nico as the dog to challenge me to be spot on with, and she was incredibly smart. Her and Ember, wicked smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. My two favorites. Oh,
I know.
I mean, okay, not supposed to have favorites, but whatever, I did.
Yeah, okay. But holy buckets, if I didn't have him, I absolutely would not have been prepared for those two. And I have this, okay, yeah. So welcome to Robin probably oversharing a little bit. If I was going to get a tattoo, I kind of have it planned out in my head, right? So everybody has seen the Celtic tree of life,
okay,
right? And the roots of that particular tree in my tattoo would be Talon.
Okay.
Because he was the foundation. And then you go up the trunk from there, right? And I've got like Moses and actually Dash and Nico are kind of that trunk. And then from there, you have limbs that come out of the tree, which all of the rest of the dogs are their own limb, but they're all intertwined together because I can look at particular dogs and be like, I learned this lesson with this dog and this lesson from this dog. And Flash is benefiting from all of those lessons because she's my youngest dog, but she's also now teaching me a whole bunch of intertwined Celtic knot skills that will be used for the next 3 puppies I have planned.
So I think Crystal, being the artist here, needs to draw that. And you
in my free time,
get a tattoo.
Yeah, in a free time.
Alyssa has an amazing
tattoo artist. I know.
Yeah. I think that'd be a little bit bigger of a tattoo than what you would want.
I think that'd
be so cool though. Yeah, big back tat. Yeah, there you go.
It'd be a nice poster for your wall.
It would be a really nice poster for my wall. And
the tattoo.
It would almost have to be something I could add in, right?
Yeah.
Because I would have additional dogs and it would allow.
That's why it would be a tattoo, because then you could just add.
Right. So, but that's how I really think.
Can't see me shaking my head.
I really think of the lessons that we learn from dog training. There's not really a beginning and an end. They're all intertwined and they tend to feed each other as you move through the journey, that training journey with that dog.
I love that. That's definitely tattoo worthy. Like I've always thought about I don't have any tattoos because I'm just like really bad with commitment. I'm just sitting here going like, what in the world would I can't commit to anything. Like I just don't even I can't come up with something. So I just don't have any. It's not that I don't want it.
So I'm the only one here that has one, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, but yours is really cool. Yours is super cool. And and you drew it. Like it's super cool. I'm just sitting here going, I don't even know. I don't know.
Right.
So I just look at other people's and I'm like, well, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. And I'm like, I got nothing.
I don't know. I don't have anything. So what other, going back to our whole
back on topic. What's that?
Back on topic. I know, sorry.
Something I was thinking about. I did take a note. I have two things. So one of them was what Stacy said. This was so long ago, it doesn't make sense to even say this now, but here we are. And one thing that I was thinking about was when the handler is also reading the hide setter. I saw that a lot, that when you have your coach there and maybe you don't mean to even, but you start like whoever's hiding stuff for you, if you're doing things blind, you need someone that is also not going to tell you where it is. Like they'll just stop.
Yeah.
And then when they stop, you're like, oh, it must be here, or they do something different. And then it clues you in and you don't even realize they're doing it and you don't realize that you're doing it. So that's something else. If you can find people that can be thoughtful about their movement, so they're not cluing you in. And that, like, I was the devil to Robin and Stacy both.
You were.
So I really, I'm overly mean about it. So Stacy was at school and we set some up there.
Oh.
And I did some just evil things. Like I was like, oh, wait, I need to go make sure I still know where it is. And it was not there at all. But, it was within, like, she could hear and kind of see where I went.
Yeah.
And it wasn't there because I was trying to plant a seed that it might be there. And she handled it like a champ. Like it wasn't there. And her dog didn't say it was there. And she kept going. And I was like, oh, passed the first test, But that's the kind of like stupid, evil things I do. I'm just putting that kind of handler bias in there because I feel like so many people, without meaning to, a lot of times they tell you where it is. So that's also I think it's along the lines of stepping in.
It is. And it's one of those things as a certifying official, I have become very, very used to setting out.
Okay. Oh, that's you.
That is me.
It's evil.
So out in listener land, one of the things as a certifying official, if I literally will look at people when we start and I will tell them, I will say, okay. It does not mean that I agree with what you're saying or I disagree with what you're saying or what you're going to do. It just means I understand you.
I just want to take a video of you saying that and post that because it is the exact same, no matter, it is so like robotic and just almost cold. But then because we're such good friends, I'm trying to read into it. I'm looking into your soul and I can like, all right, Blues, let me see. Like, I can see there's more there. And you're like, no, you can't see through me. I'm like, no.
Yeah, it's very, okay. I know I do the little eyebrow thing and I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Oh, it's terrible. Talk about evil. Ooh.
And it was really funny because I think the last certification I did, somebody did that to me and I'm like, oh, now I know what that feels like.
I did it to you at the hospital too.
Yes, you did.
I thought you were going to punch me or at least knife me.
I know.
I was like, okay.
Right.
I'm sorry. This is making me like really nervous.
Well, it's okay. It's an acquired.
It's okay. See?
It's an acquired skill.
I've got a challenging couple of months coming up here. You guys are like crap in my head.
I have a feeling your search team people already do it to you. It's just not in that frame.
Oh, yeah. But no, it's intentional.
Yeah, it's intentional because it increases your stress level. But the people who set the hides, when I'm as a certifying official, I will literally, when I know where the hide's set, and I never full frontal a hide. Mm-mm. And one of the best things that I end up doing is I'm not even going to give away a secret because it so depends on where it's at. I may actually just end up having my back almost to the hide because my job is to watch the dog and the handler. I know where the hide's at.
Let me tell you what's happened in trial, right? So because the judges who don't set the hides, right? They basically say yes or no, right? And they're following you around. And in some of these search areas are pretty big or they have a lot of different like smaller areas to them. And there are sometimes I see a judge, like I'll go in, I'll search something and the judge doesn't even like come in the room with me. Like,
yeah.
And my dog goes, nothing here. And I'm like, clearly, right? And so we move on. And then there was a time I remember I was in a summit trial and we had to do this. There were these cabins and we had the inside and outside of the cabins. And we knew how many hides there were in the search. And Brava and I actually spent way too long in this one cabin because I kept trying to leave. And the judge was like standing in the doorway. I'm like, dude, are you like broadcasting? Because I like want to get out of here. And he was like blocking my way. Finally, I'm like, I'm leaving now because I felt like he was just like, and I'm like, there's nothing in here. Like I'm leaving.
Right.
But it took me a while. And that's happened a couple times where I'm like, so you have to like get like, sometimes their broadcasting stuff is just not right.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're broadcasting stuff that is and
right.
you got to be careful to just ignore
and
all.
One of the hardest things is to actively pay attention when you know the area is blank.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's the whole thing of, we talk about, okay, what happens? Where does Robin plot many of her things? Standing for 45 minutes watching somebody clear 2 acres of cadaver area.
You get a chair.
No.
You need one of those stools that like the telescoping stools that you can carry on your shoulder.
Well, because they may move. And depending on where it's at, I may have to move so I can see past them to see the backside of the trees. Because otherwise I'm telegraphing that the hide's not back there.
Right.
Even when the hide's nowhere.
It's the same situation that I'm running in trial. And like I said, sometimes they telegraph the right thing. Sometimes they telegraph the wrong thing.
I like it when somebody's leaving an area and I just go, now, do you want me to tell you when you've missed one? Or what do you want me to do with that? And they always look at me like, we'll come back to that area. I'm like, no, I'm just asking. Like, if you pass it, like, do you want me to tell you? Talk about getting in somebody's head.
Yeah, no kidding. So
the moral of the story, don't go out. Don't search with Crystal. Just
don't. Because she hangs out with high school students. They're not nice.
True things were tricky. Oh, my other thought, it was a long, long time ago again, was I was thinking about how when we take pieces out of the chain, this is just like obedience or anything else. I try to see, at what point can we be successful? And I kind of hedge my bets. I'm like, okay, I think we can take these 3 steps and we can sit and we can do this thing. And what happens is I call it the Thomas Stoke game. It's Fanny Gott's husband. He was doing a seminar and he said, have that little game. And then if they fail in that portion, and you can predict that they're going to do it, like you wouldn't set them up for something they can't do. You're like, I think right now they can do these things. And if they don't do it, then you just go back to the very first step and then you try it again. And if they can't do it again, well, change your plan. Now, change your plan. Here's the important part. Go do something else.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that you're not just making it easier right then there on the spot. So we can think about this with any obedience, with any odor, with any activity that we're doing.
Yeah. So we don't train you to make it easier.
Yeah. So if I was working on healing and I wanted to sit and they messed up on the first 2 steps of healing, I'd reset it. They messed up on the first 2 steps of healing again. Well, clearly I wanted to get to the sit, but I couldn't get there because the healing was in our way. So I can assess and on the fly and I can go, okay, why was that a problem? Was it arousal? Was it not understanding the cue? Was it this place, the environment, all the different factors we weigh in, all of our Ds, all 4 of them. And then I can take and go do something else to give myself a minute to think about it. And so I always kind of have a default thing that I can go do that I know we can be successful with. And if I can't, I'm okay going to put my dog away so that I can assess, okay, why was that so difficult? And then I can change it up. And it's not that I'm making it easier per se, but I'm doing something in that environment to figure out why that was such a challenge. So sometimes I can't in that moment. I'm not smart enough. I have to go home and think about it. And sometimes I'm like, okay, yeah, I got it. Like that was a big suck. Like there was a decoy suit over there and that was too much. And so, hey, decoy, will you move over there? And that's enough that we can be successful in next rep.
Do you think you'd be more successful if you used all 6 Ds?
No, for sure. It would just get confusing.
I'm just throwing that out there just in case. If you're struggling, just maybe there's 2 more. You can always add those in. And then,
now, I'm going to go back to that though, because I will say, I wish that they would have said diversion instead of distraction. And then that would have been a clear D. So then we wouldn't need distraction at all. So then it would still be 4.
I totally agree with you.
I do.
Yeah.
But then I think you'd still need the distraction. But
and discrimination is only when you're really talking about odor. And that's really not something that you can control.
What's really interesting is at training, discrimination might be a different type of discrimination, because at bird dog training, we're discriminating for the dog between a mark and a blind, which comes down to a cue and how you set everything up. So now you're doing discriminative stimuli.
Or if you're doing like,
I think we're running out of time. We probably need to wrap this up.
But anyway, okay. So actually, Crystal, your whole thing reminds me that I am going to be doing a webinar, probably through the Fenzi Academy, on taking a seat this fall. And it is my version of stop, evaluate, adjust, and try again, which is how I do that really, really fast repetition thing of what Crystal was talking about. So keep that in mind. Okay, guys, takeaways. Go.
I'm trying to do a takeaway without talking about 60s. But okay. Anyway, I think it comes down to, when we're thinking about handling, that it's not a recipe. And, we really have to really think about the fact that it's a craft, and you do have to you have to feel it out. But by handling in a way that you're helping your dog to be effective without doing the work for them, and because it's really comes down to you want to try to make sure that you're not doing too much, you're not doing too little, and trying to find that balance. That's where the craft is. And you're going to get it wrong sometimes, and that's okay. And that's where self-reflection comes in. You feel it out a little bit, but try not to do your dog's work for you, for them.
I'm going to say, think about your training as links in a chain. If you haven't heard of back chaining before, can you break your behavior into pieces so that then you can take those pieces out when needed to be able to fix those links to put them back into the chain? So I think that's an important piece of our training philosophy or method or whatever you want to say.
And my biggest takeaway on this is something actually that I learned a while ago in bird dog training, which really got me thinking about all of this, is that sometimes depending on what piece of the chain I'm working in, I allow my criteria to slip in other pieces of the chain. And typically it comes down in detection work. It's really, really when we're working on that locate, I may not ask for a full train final response. I may click nose to odor. I may have to step in. I am hopefully stepping in less and less every single time that we train. But it is a craft. Dog training and operating and at a deployable level or advanced trialing level, it is a craft because you are working with another sentient being, trying to get them to play the silly game that you want them to play. So just remember that it's not a recipe book. Definitely, like Crystal's, if they can't do it twice, ask yourself why it is. And it may require you to change how you're doing it or put the dog up and just reset it differently, because you may end up working on the thing that you didn't want to work on. You didn't think you were going to work on in the first place. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Keep an eye. Remember to go put in ideas for things that you want us to talk about up on the Facebook page. I know Crystal's got some seminars coming up, so those will be out there. Stacy's in the middle of a semester, and I think do you have a webinar or something coming up?
Yeah, I've got like a couple webinars in September by the time we post this. So
right,
those will be coming up as well.
Yep.
Yeah, because I'll be in
mentions all 60s of detection. So
because I'll be in Kansas in September, and then Stacy and I both will be in Ohio in October.
Yay!
Yeah,
and then I'll be in Wisconsin in November.
Right, and I'm going to have the webinar coming out, and then the Canine Census Foundation is actually going to be launching a huge initiative this fall. So expect more information coming out about that around October 1st. So for now, thank you everybody for tuning in, and go train.
Canine Detection Collaborative! We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.